Have you ever felt your chest tighten when someone you love pulls away, as if your whole body suddenly goes on alert? Do you ever catch yourself rereading a text again and again, looking for signs that you've done something wrong, even when nothing's actually happened? If that sounds familiar, take a deep breath with me. Inhale and exhale. You're safe here. Before we begin, remember this. Healing anxious attachment isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before fear taught you to shrink. The part of you that still reaches for love is not the problem. It's the proof that you're still open, still hopeful, still capable of deep connection. That's where your healing begins. You're not alone in this. This space was created to bring clarity, healing, and compassion to the parts of you that are still learning to feel safe. Here, we don't chase perfection. We practice presence. We honor your nervous system, and we remember that healing isn't a finish line. It's a practice you can return to again and again. Just for a moment, notice how your body feels right now. On a scale from 1 to 10, how anxious does it feel? Don't judge the number, simply notice it. This video is based on the book Anxious Attachment Recovery Made Simple by Inner Growth Press, and it's meant to complement the book, not replace it. If something you hear today resonates deeply, you'll find the full book and audiobook linked in the description so you can go even deeper at your own pace. In this journey together, you'll discover the simple science behind attachment, without the heavy jargon, along with practical, step-by-step tools you can actually use right away. You'll hear short, relatable stories that help these lessons stick, and most of all, you'll be reminded that becoming secure isn't about never being triggered. It's about learning how to come back to yourself when you are. If, at any point, you think of someone who could use this message, a friend, a partner, a loved one, share it. Acts of generosity like that have a way of circling back to you in the most unexpected ways. The support you give today becomes the safety you feel tomorrow. Now, take another deep breath. Unclench your jaw. Soften your shoulders. You're doing beautifully. For this video, we'll go chapter by chapter through the book, gently breaking down each idea so you can get the most out of it. You'll find practical tools, reflections, and stories that bring every concept to life. However, remember that this video is only a complement to the book, not a replacement for it. If something resonates with you, the full book and audiobook are linked below so you can go even deeper into your healing journey. And if you find value here, remember to like and subscribe. More book summaries are on the way, and doing that simple action shows not just your support, but your commitment to your own transformation and healing. Let's begin. Let's explore what it means to move from anxious to steadily more secure, one caring practice at a time. I want to tell you a story. There was once a little girl who grew up feeling invisible. Her parents were lost in their own pain, and she spent her childhood moving from one foster home to another, never really knowing where she belonged. Every night she hoped someone would finally stay, but people kept leaving. As she grew older, she learned to hide her fear behind a bright smile. She became the kind of woman everyone admired, radiant, talented, full of charm. But behind closed doors, she carried the same ache she'd felt as a child. She craved love, reassurance, safety, and yet every relationship seemed to remind her how easily love could disappear. She was adored by millions, photographed by thousands, yet deeply alone. Her name was Norma Jean. You might know her better as Marilyn Monroe. And while the world saw beauty and success, what few understood was that inside, she was fighting the same battle so many of us face. The struggle to feel secure, to trust that love can last, to quiet the fear of being left behind. The book, Anxious Attachment Recovery. Made Simple begins with her story because it's not just about fame or tragedy. It's about what happens when early wounds shape the way we love. We're not here to sensationalize her life, but to use it as a mirror. Because, like Norma Jean, many of us have learned to smile through our fear, to perform our worth instead of feeling it. But with awareness, compassion, and daily practice, we can begin to feel safe again, from the inside out. So, are you ready? Let's begin by understanding why your body reacts the way it does, and what you can do in those first fragile moments of a trigger. Chapter 1. The Initial Bond. The book begins with a story that feels so familiar it could be any of us. A woman sits in front of her laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard on Reddit. She hesitates, wanting to share but afraid of being judged. The post she's looking at asks for advice on dealing with anxious attachment. She's in a new relationship 1 month in, and she adores her partner. But lately, she's felt him pull away. That familiar panic rises, first in her stomach, then in her chest. The thoughts start spinning. Did I do something wrong? Is he losing interest? Am I too much again? Instead of speaking up, she does what so many of us do. She withdraws, hoping he'll notice. But silence only makes the anxiety louder. So finally, she reaches out to her sister, talks to her best friend, and names what's really happening underneath the fear. I'm scared he'll leave. And from that honesty, everything shifts. She texts him, shares her feelings, and he responds with reassurance and calm. The tension softens. The connection repairs. Have you ever felt that same pit in your stomach when someone you love seems distant? What story does your mind start to tell in those moments? Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe they don't care. Just notice what comes up. Take a deep breath with me. Inhale for 4. Exhale for 6. This isn't neediness. It's your nervous system scanning for safety. When we don't feel secure, our body sends alarms. That quick text, that sudden silence, that urge to chase or to pull back. Those are protest behaviors, your brain's way of saying, please don't leave me. It's not brokenness, it's biology. That's exactly what Chapter 1 explores. How our first bond, the one we had as infants, becomes the foundation for every relationship that follows. Decades ago, psychologist John Bowlby observed that children in orphanages, even when given food, shelter, and medical care, were failing to thrive. They weren't sick. They were disconnected. Their bodies needed warmth, presence, and safety, not just milk or medicine. Later, researcher Harry Harlow proved the same with his now famous monkey experiment. Even when one fake mother gave milk and the other offered only soft cloth, the baby monkeys clung to the soft one for comfort. We don't survive on food alone. We survive on connection. That's what attachment really is, a survival system. We seek closeness when we're scared. We return to a safe base when we explore. And we ache when that bond feels threatened. Who was that safe base for you growing up? Maybe a parent? Maybe someone else? Or maybe no one. If no one comes to mind, just notice that, gently, without judgment. Every early experience, whether consistent or chaotic, becomes part of the map your brain uses for love. Psychologists later described 4 natural stages of attachment in infancy: pre-attachment, indiscriminate, discriminate, and multiple attachments. Each phase teaches your nervous system something about the world, whether it's safe to reach out or safer to guard yourself. The quality of that early care becomes your first relationship template, the invisible spreadsheet your adult self still uses today. As we grow, the patterns we learned from those early bonds begin to show up in the way we love, argue, wait for a text, or handle silence. Psychologist Mary Ainsworth saw this when she observed infants and their mothers in what became known as the strange situation. How each child reacted when their mother left, and when she returned, told a story about the kind of love they had learned to expect. Let's look at those stories together. Some children, when their mother stepped out of the room, cried for a moment, but when she came back, they melted into her arms, calmed down quickly, and went back to exploring. These were the securely attached ones. They had learned that comfort was reliable, that someone would come when they cried, and that love didn't vanish with distance. As adults, they grow into people who can say, "I miss you," without fearing it will push someone away. Others acted differently. When their mother left, they stayed quiet. They didn't cry. They didn't reach out. But if you looked closely, their tiny shoulders were tense, their eyes darting toward the door when they thought no one was watching. These were the avoidant ones. They had learned early on that their feelings were too much, that closeness wasn't safe, so they built independence like armor. As adults, they may pride themselves on not needing anyone, but inside, they're simply protecting the part that once needed too much and didn't get it. Then there were the anxious, ambivalent children. When their mother left, they panicked. When she returned, they clung to her, crying, angry, confused. They wanted her close, yet they were upset she had ever gone. They had learned that love could come and go without warning, that sometimes comfort was there and sometimes it wasn't. As adults, they love with intensity, but live with fear, replaying texts, second-guessing tones, waiting for reassurance that never feels like enough. And then there were the disorganized ones. Their reactions didn't make sense, a mix of reaching out and pulling away, freezing, or collapsing in confusion. The one they loved was also the one they feared. This often happens when the caregiver is both the source of comfort and pain. A parent who says "I love you" but also yells, disappears, or becomes unpredictable. As adults, these people long for connection, yet fear it at the same time. Their hearts want love, their bodies brace for danger. Each of these stories begins in the same place, with a child learning what love feels like, whether it felt safe, inconsistent, distant, or frightening. Those early experiences wrote the blueprint your nervous system still follows today. And the most important thing to know, none of this is fixed. Your style isn't a life sentence. It's a pattern you can understand, soften, and rewire, one conscious breath at a time. The chapter also gives you a series of exercises to help you understand and heal your attachment style. But let's try one together right now. Something simple that's not in the book. Take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. Close your eyes for a moment if you can. Think of someone whose distance once made you feel anxious, a partner, a friend, maybe even a parent. Now, instead of analyzing what they did, bring your attention to your own body. Where do you feel it most? The tension, the tightness, the ache of not knowing. Maybe it's your chest, your stomach, your throat. Just notice it. You don't need to change it or fix it. Now, whisper quietly to yourself, "I'm feeling unsafe right now, and that's okay. I'm learning how to stay with myself even when connection feels uncertain." Inhale for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do that one more time. That's your nervous system starting to settle. When you pause like this, when you breathe instead of react, you're teaching your brain that it doesn't need to panic to stay connected. You're rewriting a pattern that began long ago. Every time you notice that rising anxiety and meet it with awareness instead of blame, you strengthen your secure self. You're already doing beautifully, just by noticing, breathing, and choosing to stay with your feelings instead of running from them. You've begun to change the pattern. Chapter 1 reminds us that our first bond, the one we didn't choose, shaped how we experience love today. But awareness is power, because once you see the pattern, you can begin to rewrite it. In the next chapter, we'll go deeper into what happens in the moment, when those old fears get triggered, when your heart races, your thoughts spiral, and your nervous system takes over. We'll talk about how to recognize those triggers, and most importantly, how to calm them, so you can respond from your secure self, not your survival self. Take a deep breath with me. You're safe, and you're learning. Let's move into Chapter 2. Chapter 2: Decoding Triggers. Sarah says it plainly. Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm a recovering anxious attachment type. Her story isn't a sitcom. It's the ache so many of us know. She tried to outsmart the chaos, first by overcorrecting into a relationship that was safe but not alive, then by stepping back into dating and getting ghosted, then by standing in the mirror and choosing herself on purpose. And finally, she met someone different, open, honest, grounded, and noticed a new pattern. The triggers still appeared, but they fell faster because safety was finally in the room. That's the heart of this chapter. Triggers don't mean you're broken. They mean your nervous system is scanning for danger the way it learned to long ago. Think of your day like a calm walk in the sun. Everything feels okay. Then, click. You've stepped on a hidden landmine. A delayed reply, a change in tone, a sudden, we need to talk. A partner who seems far away for reasons you can't see. Your body lights up, your heart races, your mind fills in the blanks with the scariest story it knows. In those moments, it's not logic running the show, it's protection. These landmines are personal. For one person, it's being left on red. For another, it's a partner going quiet when stressed. For someone else, it's criticism at work that feels like love being withdrawn. There isn't a universal list. There's your list, shaped by your history. The book calls this out clearly. Anxious attachment often meets distance with alarm, emotional unavailability, slow responses, conflict, criticism. Each can cue the old fear of being forgotten, rejected, or replaced. But here's where your power returns. When you can name your specific landmines, you change how you move through the field. You don't have to do this alone. A journal helps. A trusted friend helps. A therapist can help. But even before any of that, your own attention is powerful. Notice the patterns, the emotions that spike, the thoughts that repeat, the sensations that surge, tightness in the chest, shallow breath, heat in the face. Your body is a brilliant alarm system. It's also your way back to calm. The chapter also gives you a series of exercises to spot and work with triggers. But let's try one together right now. Something simple that's not in the book. Close your eyes if you can. Bring to mind a recent trigger, just a small one. Notice where you feel it most: chest, belly, throat. Now whisper. This is a trigger, not the truth. Inhale through your nose for 4. 2, 3, 4. Exhale through your mouth for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again. Inhale through your nose for 4, 2, 3, 4, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now ask yourself one gentle question. If my younger self were here, what would they be afraid is happening? Let the answer come. Place a hand over your heart and say, I'm here with you. We'll move through this together. That's all. You just separated alarm from action. When anger is the surface emotion, it's often shielding something tender, fear, shame, grief. Stepping away for a few minutes doesn't mean you're avoiding, it means you're regulating. Walk around the block. Run cold water on your wrists. Scribble your feelings on a scrap of paper. Then come back and speak from the need, not the heat. I got anxious and my brain told me a scary story. What I'm really needing is reassurance, clarity, a plan. Mindfulness threads through all of this. It's not a lofty ideal. It's a 10-second pause where you become the observer instead of the reactor. You catch the story as it forms. They didn't text back. My mind just jumped to, I'm not important. Noted. That tiny moment is you choosing secure behavior even when anxious feelings are present. Grounding makes it practical. Try the 5-4-3-2-1 method. Name 5 things you see, 4 you can touch, 3 you hear, 2 you can smell, 1 you can taste. Feel your feet on the floor. Look for the straightest line in the room, a window frame, a book spine, and rest your eyes there. When your senses anchor you, your thoughts soften. And here's something new to deepen the work. A self-reparenting moment. Think of your next trigger as a message from your younger self. That part of you is still trying to keep you safe. When you feel the panic rise, imagine your adult self gently taking that younger version by the shoulders, looking them in the eyes and saying, I see you. You're safe with me now. You can even visualize wrapping them in a blanket, sitting with them until the storm passes. Every time you do this, your brain learns. The danger is old, but the safety is new. This is how emotional memory rewires, through repetition and compassion. You can also practice this with small daily triggers. When you spill coffee, lose your keys, or run late, notice the voice that scolds you. Then add another one that says, it's okay. We're human. The more often you practice gentleness in small moments, the more natural it becomes when the big ones arrive. Over time, you'll start recognizing early cues, your personal click before the boom. Maybe your shoulders lift, your breath goes shallow, your jaw tightens, your thumbs hover over your phone. That is your invitation to choose a different path. You can message cleanly. Hey, I noticed I'm feeling a bit unsettled. Could we check in later today? You can also honor space. I'm getting activated. I'm going to ground and come back to this in 20 minutes. Here's a simple sequence to keep in your pocket when a trigger hits. Notice, name, normalize, need. Next step. Notice the body cue, name the trigger, normalize the reaction. Of course I'm activated. This touches old fear. Name the need, reassurance, clarity, closeness, time. Choose the next step, breathe, ground, or send a clear, kind bid for connection. Remember Sarah? Her triggers didn't vanish, her relationship to them changed. That's the shift you're practicing. The trigger is an echo, your response is the new song. Before we close, choose one line to carry with you today. Maybe it's, this is a trigger, not the truth. Maybe it's my feelings are real and I can regulate. Maybe it's I stay with myself. Let it be your lighthouse when the fog rolls in. You're doing beautifully. Awareness is already changing you. And now, we're ready for the next step. In Chapter 3, we'll go deeper into cognitive change, how to gently challenge the thoughts that pour gasoline on your triggers, and how to build new beliefs that actually calm your nervous system. Think of it as editing the script your mind has been rehearsing for years, line by line, toward secure love. Take one more slow breath. You're safe. You're learning. Let's move into Chapter 3. Chapter 3. Managing Anxiety and Regulating Emotions. This chapter begins with something many of us secretly hope to hear about ourselves: progress. Emily sits across from her therapist, realizing that healing didn't mean eliminating every trace of anxiety. It meant letting feelings move through her without deciding what they say about her worth. Earlier that week, an ex reached out before leaving the country. The old fears rose, but something new happened. The wave crested and passed. She noticed it, named it, breathed with it, and it didn't run her life. That's growth. Maybe you've had a moment like that too, not dramatic, not perfect, just a quiet, "Oh, I handled that better than I used to." If you've ever caught yourself pausing before spiraling, taking one fuller breath before replying, or choosing kindness with yourself instead of criticism, that counts. That's your nervous system learning safety. Anxiety often shows up in ordinary moments. A message you're waiting on, a plan that changes, a voice that sounds distant, a calendar invite with no context. Your body leans forward, scanning for danger. Your mind starts filling in blanks. If you notice that happening right now, place a hand on your chest and let your breath deepen. Remind yourself, feeling anxious doesn't mean I am unsafe. It means my body is asking for care. Emily's breakthrough wasn't about becoming untriggered. It was about becoming resourced. She practiced validating her fear of abandonment, of not being enough, without letting that fear decide her next move. That's emotional regulation in real life, acknowledging what's here and then choosing what's helpful. The book offers several practical tools for this, and we're going to practice one together right now. It's simple, evidence-based, and incredibly grounding: progressive muscle relaxation. If you're in a place where you can safely do this, get comfortable. If you can't do the full practice, even a shorter version will help. Gently close your eyes or soften your gaze. Take a slow inhale through your nose and a longer exhale through your mouth. Now bring your attention to your hands. Curl your fingers into gentle fists, just enough to feel the tension. Hold and release. Let your hands grow soft and heavy. Good. Now your forearms. Imagine you're trying to bend your elbows against light resistance. Hold and release. Notice the difference between tense and relaxed. Move to your shoulders. Lift them slightly toward your ears. Hold and let them drop. Feel the warmth that follows. Bring awareness to your jaw. Press your molars together very lightly, just enough to feel contact. Hold and release. Let your jaw hang soft. Let your tongue rest on the floor of your mouth. Smooth your brow. Now your belly. Breathe in and let your abdomen expand like a balloon. On the exhale, imagine any excess tension draining down through your legs into the floor. Finally, your legs and feet. Press your heels into the ground or point your toes. Hold. And release. Let your feet feel supported. Take one more breath in and a slow, complete breath out. Notice what shifted. Even a 60-second reset like this sends your brain a signal. We are safe enough to soften. If you prefer something even simpler, the book also teaches diaphragmatic breathing. One hand on your belly, one on your chest. Breathe in gently so the lower hand rises. Breathe out longer than you breathe in. A few rounds can reduce that jittery feeling and help you think clearly again. As your body settles, your mind becomes easier to work with. Anxiety loves to write scary stories in the blanks. Regulation helps you edit them in real time. If a thought appears, "They're pulling away," "I said the wrong thing," "This will fall apart," try this kind reframe. "This is a thought, not a fact. My body is asking for reassurance. I can respond with care." Notice how that tiny shift makes space for better choices. Emily practiced this during the ex-partner moment. She validated the spike. Of course, this stirs old pain. And then she turned toward herself with compassion. Curiosity replaced judgment. The intensity was still there, but it wasn't everything. She could see it, breathe with it, and let it pass. That's what we're training, not the absence of emotion, but the presence of you. If you'd like to add one more layer from the book, bring a light journaling prompt into your week. Nothing heavy, just a few lines at night. What triggered me today? What did I feel in my body? What did I need? What helped? Patterns become clearer on paper, and clarity is calming. Let's lock in one sentence you can keep for the rest of today. My feelings are valid, and I can regulate. Say it softly now. Once more. Good. Each time you repeat it, especially after a breath, you strengthen the pathway back to calm. As we close this chapter, remember Emily's realization. Anxiety isn't the enemy, disconnection from yourself is. Every breath, every softening of your jaw, every gentle reframe is you reconnecting. That's the win. That's the practice. Take a second to notice where you are right now, the light in the room, the steadiness in your breath, the quiet strength that comes after calming your body. You've just practiced emotional regulation in real time. You did beautifully, but for many of us, regulation alone doesn't fully quiet the storm. Sometimes the anxiety has older roots, memories, wounds, or moments that still live inside the body. In the next chapter, we'll go there together. We'll talk about trauma, how it shapes attachment, how it hides in your triggers, and how you can begin to release it safely at your own pace. Chapter 4. Overcoming Trauma. This chapter opens in quiet exhaustion. The narrator comes home from the hospital, shoes kicked off, sitting on the edge of the bed, wondering how life unraveled so quickly. Her mother appears at the doorway with a bowl of noodles and a box. Inside are marble-covered notebooks, once filled with letters to her late father. She opens one, and suddenly the years collapse into ink. Stories of a king who locked himself away, of a daughter who kept searching for the cure that never came. That daughter is her. The disease she feared wasn't contagious. It was emotional inheritance. The unspoken pain that passes from parent to child when trauma is never healed. That's what this chapter is really about. How pain travels through families until someone decides to stop carrying it. Trauma isn't only the obvious events, the accidents, the violence, the heartbreaks that everyone sees. It's also what we didn't get, the comfort that never came, the apology that never arrived, the safety we had to build ourselves. When we grow up inside tension, our bodies memorize it. We learn to stay alert, to read moods, to apologize before anyone's even upset. Years later, we call it anxiety, but at its core, it's old loyalty, the nervous system keeping watch long after the danger is gone. Science has confirmed just how deeply this imprint can run. In one groundbreaking study at Emory University, researchers trained mice to associate the scent of cherry blossoms with a mild electric shock. Eventually, the mice froze in fear whenever they smelled the scent, even when there was no danger. What's remarkable is that their offspring, and even their grand offspring, also reacted with anxiety to the same smell, despite never being shocked themselves. The fear was passed down biologically, through changes in the DNA linked to smell and stress. It's a stunning demonstration of what many of us already feel in our bones. Sometimes the anxiety we carry didn't start with us. But while trauma can echo across generations, healing can echo too. Every time one person chooses to break a cycle, the pattern shifts, for themselves and for whoever comes after them. If you've ever wondered why you overreact to something small, or why silence feels like punishment, or why you panic when someone says, "We need to talk," you've already touched the surface of trauma's ripple. It's not that you're too sensitive, it's that your body remembers. Maybe you learned to read the room because as a child, that was the only way to stay safe. Maybe you became hyper-independent because asking for help never worked. Maybe you numb out because feeling too much once got you hurt. These are not character flaws, they're adaptations. The book introduces Alice, a woman who had everything material and almost nothing emotional. Her parents were critical, absent, distracted. As an adult, she clung to people the way she once waited for their approval, desperate for signs she mattered. Her story mirrors so many. The child who grew up unseen becomes the adult who over-explains, overperforms, or overloves just to feel safe. If you recognize yourself in that, pause for a moment, not to analyze, but to acknowledge. You've been adapting, not failing. The anxious patterns you carry were once survival strategies. Trauma simply froze them in place. Healing doesn't mean erasing the past. It means updating the rules that used to keep you alive so they no longer keep you small. One way the book helps you start doing that is through cognitive behavioral therapy. It's not about forced positivity, it's about realism. When a thought hits you like a wave, "They'll leave me, I can't handle this, I always ruin things." Stop and ask 3 quiet questions. What evidence do I have that this thought is true? Is there another way to see this situation? What would I say to a friend who felt this way? That pause isn't just mental, it's biological. Each time you interrupt a fear story, you retrain the pathways in your brain that link emotion to threat. Over time, that gap between trigger and panic stretches wider, until you can walk through it with choice. The chapter also explores how therapy, creativity, and connection restore that sense of choice. EMDR helps the body release trapped memories. Art therapy lets feelings speak when words get stuck. Outdoor therapy rewires resilience through movement and community. Each path is different, but the goal is the same: to move the story out of storage and back into motion. And perhaps the most radical shift comes through understanding, seeing trauma not as a personal defect, but as unfinished protection. Once you understand that, compassion becomes possible, both for the people who hurt you and for the parts of yourself still trying to survive them. Sometimes healing doesn't look like forgiveness. It looks like clarity. It looks like finally saying, "That wasn't okay," and letting that truth settle without guilt. It looks like choosing peace even when chaos feels more familiar. The narrator ends her story by typing 2 words, "My second chance." It's a small phrase with a massive truth. Healing is rarely dramatic. It's made of moments like that, when you pick up the pen again instead of giving up on the chapter. And here's the thing, just as fear can be passed down, safety can too. Every new choice, every boundary, every honest conversation becomes a signal your body, and maybe even your future children, will recognize as calm. That's what healing does. It writes new genetic notes in the body's song. So if you take one thing from this section, let it be this. Your past explains you, but it does not define your future. In the next chapter, we'll see why that's not just poetic, it's scientific. We'll explore neuroplasticity, how your brain physically reshapes itself through new thoughts, new experiences, and new safety. The same mind that once learned fear can just as powerfully learn freedom. Before we move on, if this video speaks to you, please take a second to hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed. It really helps more than you know, not just for the channel, but for the people who might find it because of you. You never know who's quietly struggling with the same wounds, waiting to hear that they're not alone. Leave a comment below if something in this chapter resonated with you or reminded you of your own story. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Thank you. Chapter 5. Rewiring Your Brain for Security. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why do I still react this way even when I know better? You've read the books, done the healing work, maybe even promised yourself that next time you'll stay calm, you'll breathe, you won't spiral. But then, something small happens. A text left on read, a tone that feels distant, a shift you can't explain, and suddenly your body takes over. The same panic, the same story, the same flood of thoughts telling you that maybe you're too much or not enough. And in that moment, it's so easy to believe that you're failing at healing. But what if that reaction didn't mean you're broken? What if it meant your brain just learned too well? Because the truth is, your brain isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to protect you using the same wiring that once kept you safe. It memorized danger. It rehearsed rejection. It practiced survival until those pathways became automatic. The good news? Anything learned can be relearned. And that's where this chapter begins. The brain that rewires itself. In the mid-1800s, a man named Phineas Gage survived what should have been an impossible accident. An iron rod shot through his skull during a railway explosion, destroying part of his brain. Against all odds, he lived. But something in him changed. Once calm and steady, Gage became impulsive, irritable, and unpredictable. Doctors at the time were baffled until they realized that somehow his brain was adapting. The remaining parts began creating new connections to help him function. This was one of the earliest glimpses into neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire and heal itself. That discovery changed everything we know about healing. Because if the brain can rebuild after an iron rod, imagine what it can do after heartbreak. From science to self-healing. Modern research confirms what Gage's story first revealed. Your brain is not fixed. It's constantly reshaping itself based on what you focus on, repeat, and believe. Dr. Joe Dispenza, a neuroscientist who became known after his own recovery from a severe spinal injury, explains it beautifully. You can't think greater than how you feel until you start feeling greater than how you think. In other words, if you want to change your life, you must teach your brain a new emotional language. When you repeat patterns of fear and self-doubt, your brain strengthens those neural pathways, just like rehearsing a song. But when you choose new responses, calm breathing instead of panic, self-compassion instead of criticism, space instead of clinging, you start rewiring. You're training your mind to expect safety. Neuroplasticity isn't just about recovery, It's about reprogramming. Every time you interrupt an old cycle, that urge to call 10 times, to over-explain, to beg for reassurance, you're sending a new message. I am safe, even when I'm not being validated. At first, it feels unnatural. You'll want to go back to the familiar chaos because it feels safer than peace. But if you keep choosing calm, your brain begins to trust it. Those new neural connections strengthen, and over time, security starts to feel like home. The inner science of attachment. When you're anxiously attached, you've trained your brain to equate love with anxiety and absence with danger. But as you start forming new habits, journaling instead of overanalyzing, slowing your breath instead of reacting, you begin to form new circuits. Neuroscientists describe two kinds of plasticity: functional, where one brain region takes over a lost function; structural, where new neural connections form through new experiences. Both are happening in you every time you choose presence over panic. This isn't just mental, it's physical change. MRI scans show that mindfulness, gratitude, and emotional regulation literally reshape the brain's gray matter. So when you practice self-soothing or self-talk, you're not pretending to be healed, you're practicing it into being. Repetition creates reality. There's a saying in neuroscience: neurons that fire together, wire together. That means every thought and reaction you repeat builds a stronger connection. For years, you might have wired your brain to expect rejection or fear. But now, with awareness, you can build something new. It starts small, catching the impulse to cling, taking a breath instead of sending that extra message, telling yourself, I'm okay, even when things feel uncertain. Each repetition matters. Each choice is a rewiring. Just as Phineas Gage's brain reorganized after trauma, yours can too. You're proof that the human mind doesn't just survive, it adapts. A quiet revolution. One of Joe Dispenza's most striking insights is this: the moment you decide not to live by your emotions of the past, you begin to rewrite the program of your mind. That's exactly what this chapter invites you to do: to stop fighting your wiring and start teaching it something new. Neuroplasticity isn't a quick fix. It's a quiet revolution happening inside your brain, one moment of awareness at a time. So next time you notice that urge to cling, pause and remind yourself, your brain is learning safety, your body is remembering peace, and you're becoming secure from the inside out. Practice rewiring in real time. Neuroplasticity doesn't happen in theory, it happens in real time, in the middle of your reactions. The next time you feel that anxious pull, the urge to cling, over-explain, or fix, try this instead. 1. Name what's really happening. When you notice yourself reaching, chasing, or over-explaining, pause and admit it. I'm craving connection. Not I'm broken, not I'm too much. Just I want to feel close. That honesty softens the charge and invites awareness instead of shame. 2. Shift your state, not your story. If you can't calm your thoughts, change your setting. Step into another room, open a window, stretch, touch something cold or textured. It tells your nervous system, we're here, not back there. 3. Add a sentence that feels real, not rehearsed. Instead of repeating mantras that don't land, say something that sounds like you. This feeling won't last forever. I've handled worse. I can pause without disappearing. These phrases work because they sound true, not perfect. 4. Collect proof of progress. Each time you recover faster, note it somewhere: your phone, a sticky note, a journal. The anxious brain needs evidence, not pep talks. Let it see that it's learning. Neuroplasticity isn't about forcing calm, it's about repetition in moments of awareness. Every time you do one small thing differently, even how you speak to yourself, you're building a new track for your mind to follow. Chapter 6: A Journey to Secure Attachment. Have you ever met someone who made you doubt everything you thought you knew about yourself? Maybe you believed you were emotionally stable, clear about what you wanted, even proud of how calm you could stay during conflict, until you met that one person who somehow turned every silence into a storm. That's how this story begins. He thought he was the secure one, confident in love, honest, grounded, the kind of person who could talk things through, and for a while everything seemed perfect. The connection felt natural, easy, almost meant to be, until, little by little, things began to shift. She started to need space, to pull away, to take longer to answer. She said she cared, but her actions kept testing him, keeping him close, but never quite letting him in. At first he tried to be understanding. He told himself to be patient, to give her room, to stay calm. But with every unanswered message and every canceled plan, a quiet panic began to grow inside him. He started to question his worth, replay conversations in his head, wonder what he'd done wrong. And the more she withdrew, the more desperate he became to fix it. It wasn't until much later that he understood. It wasn't him who changed. It was his nervous system responding to the unpredictability of someone avoidant. When the person you love turns distant, your brain sounds an alarm. You don't decide to panic, your body does. This realization became the turning point of his healing. He began to see that even a secure person can feel anxious when their connection feels unsafe. Security doesn't mean you never wobble. It means you know how to find your balance again. It's strange, isn't it? How easily we assume something must be wrong with us when our hearts ache. But sometimes, what feels like weakness is simply our attachment system doing its job, trying to reach for safety. As the chapter unfolds, we're invited to see secure attachment not as perfection, but as rhythm. It's the gentle movement between closeness and space, between being seen and being still. Secure people aren't immune to fear or doubt. They've just learned to respond differently. They don't shut down or chase, they stay curious. They breathe through discomfort instead of running from it. True security isn't about needing less. It's about trusting that your needs don't make you too much. He started noticing how differently secure people moved through love, how they could be deeply connected yet never lose themselves. They didn't rush to fill silence with reassurance or treat space like rejection. When conflict appeared, they didn't crumble. They reached out, they listened, they repaired. And that's when he realized the goal isn't to find someone who never triggers you. It's to learn how to stay connected to yourself when they do. It's easy to believe that healing means never feeling anxious again, but the truth is softer than that. Healing means knowing that anxiety is just a messenger. It reminds you where tenderness still lives, where love once hurt and still asks for safety. As the story deepens, the narrator begins to rebuild himself piece by piece. He reflects on his childhood, on the moments when love felt like something to earn, not something freely given. He sees how those patterns carried into adulthood, shaping how he reached for others. The work wasn't about blaming anyone. It was about understanding the map his heart had been following all along. There's a quiet beauty in that kind of awareness, when you finally realize that healing isn't about fixing yourself, but about relearning what love actually feels like when it's safe. The book then reminds us, secure attachment is not a personality type, it's a skill. It's something we practice every time we choose calm over chaos, communication over guessing, truth over pretending. It's something we build when we set boundaries, when we apologize sincerely, when we keep showing up after difficult days. And the beautiful part? It's contagious. The more secure you become, the more you inspire that same security in others. He began to test this in small ways. Instead of over-explaining himself, he said what he felt, clearly, kindly, once. Instead of waiting for validation, he gave it to himself. Instead of rushing to fix disconnection, he let silence breathe, and slowly, something changed. Conversations became easier. His body no longer braced for rejection. The same situations that used to spiral him into panic began to soften. That's how security feels when it starts to grow, not loud, but steady. Maybe you've experienced something similar, that shift from panic to peace, from needing to be chosen to realizing that you already are. It's quiet, but powerful. It doesn't come all at once. It builds in layers with each small moment of trust you give yourself. You'll know you're changing when you stop chasing love that hurts and start choosing love that feels calm. When you stop needing to convince someone to stay. When you can say, "This doesn't feel good," without fear of losing everything. That's what secure attachment really is. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of self-trust. And if you're listening to this wondering, can I really become that kind of person? The answer is yes. Your brain can rewire. Your heart can relearn safety. It's not about being fearless. It's about remembering that you're capable of handling fear without losing your center. So take this with you. Every time you choose honesty over control, every time you take a pause instead of reacting, every time you stop chasing someone who can't meet you, you're teaching your nervous system that peace is possible. Because secure attachment isn't found through someone else's love. It's built through your own consistency. It's not a gift someone gives you. It's a rhythm you return to again and again until it becomes your natural state. And one day you'll notice, you don't overthink texts anymore. You don't perform for attention. You don't confuse intensity with intimacy. You feel calm, grounded, free. That's when you'll know you've made it home to yourself. Chapter 7. Building Trust in Relationships. Dear husband, I'm writing from the quiet corner of our house where the air feels still, and I can finally hear my own thoughts. 12 years, and somehow it feels like both a blink and a lifetime. When I look back, I see us moving through the seasons of love, like travelers who forgot the map, but never stopped walking. In the beginning, everything shimmered, the kind of love that makes you laugh too loud in grocery aisles, the kind that turns ordinary mornings into something sacred. Then came the years that asked more of us: work, kids, bills, sleepless nights, and too many responsibilities. We became efficient, capable, dependable, but somewhere along the way, we became less us. I became the one who held it all together. You became the one who carried everything that couldn't be seen. I told myself that love meant never needing help, and you told yourself that strength meant never falling apart. Between those quiet misunderstandings, we drifted. Then came the moment that broke the illusion, my emotional affair. It didn't last, but it revealed the fault lines we'd both stopped noticing. I wanted to blame you for not being there. Therapy didn't let me. Therapy made me see the mirror instead, how I had turned my needs into shame, how I waited for you to read my silence like a map you were never given. Those sessions were brutal and holy at the same time. They peeled away our pride until all that was left were two people trying to learn a new language: honesty. You said you didn't know how to fix it, but you wanted to. I said I didn't know how to stop pretending I was fine. Somewhere in the middle of all that rawness, we started again. Trust didn't come back with one conversation. It returned in small, almost invisible moments: the text that arrived when you said it would, the soft tone instead of the sharp one, the way you reached for my hand when words failed. We rebuilt the bridge one plank at a time, until one day the distance between us felt like something we had already crossed. Now we are not the people who started this story. We're slower, wiser, more human. You don't have to be perfect, and I don't have to be unbreakable. We can be flawed and still be safe. That's what real trust feels like. Not a promise that nothing will ever hurt again, but the quiet knowing that even if it does, we'll find our way back. With love, your wife. When you think of trust, it's easy to picture it as something abstract, a word that belongs in vows and therapy rooms. But trust is more primitive than that. It lives in the body long before it ever reaches the mind. If you've been hurt before, your nervous system keeps the score. A sigh, a pause, a certain look. Your body recognizes danger even when logic says there's none. It braces, it flinches, it prepares for what used to follow. That's why rebuilding trust can feel like learning how to breathe differently. The mind can decide to forgive, but the body still needs evidence, not apologies, patterns. The nervous system relaxes when it sees consistency, messages answered, tone steady, promises kept, small acts repeated until they stop feeling like luck. That's when the body finally whispers, "It's safe now." Trust, then, isn't built in declarations. It's built in the rhythm of reliability. It's the exhale that happens when you realize you don't have to keep scanning for danger. It's when you can finally stop managing the moment and just be in it. Think of trust like a garden after a storm. You don't dig up the soil every day to see if the roots are growing. You water, you wait, you protect it from frost. Some mornings you'll swear nothing is happening, and then suddenly, green. That's how safety grows too. Slowly, invisibly, then all at once. And for those listening who are rebuilding trust alone, please know this work is still for you. Because the first person you ever learn to trust again is yourself. Every time you follow through on what you promised your own soul, to rest, to leave when something hurts, to speak even when your voice shakes, you're mending the inner bond that every other love will build on. The steadier you become with yourself, the safer you'll feel with others. Trust doesn't mean never being afraid. It means knowing that fear no longer runs the show. You can still have doubts and choose closeness anyway. You can still flinch and stay. You can still love with an open heart and a clear boundary. Of course, trust looks different for each of us. Some people rebuild it through words, others through touch or presence. Some need to talk for hours, others need quiet consistency. But the principle is the same. Safety is repetition that feels like care, a predictable kindness, a steady response. And sometimes the hardest trust of all is learning to trust love after disappointment, to open the same heart that once broke and say, "You still deserve connection." That's courage, not the absence of fear, but the choice to love while remembering that fear exists. If you've ever wondered how to start, begin small. Keep one promise to yourself each day. If you say you'll call someone back, do it. If you say you'll take 10 minutes of quiet, honor it. These are the smallest building blocks of inner safety. From there, every other form of trust will have somewhere to land. Because maybe the real miracle isn't finding someone who never breaks our trust, it's realizing we can rebuild it without closing our hearts, that we can love again without forgetting what we've learned, that we can stop confusing safe with boring, and start recognizing peace for what it really is. The sound of your body finally believing that love doesn't have to hurt. Trust is not an event, it's a practice. One small act of reliability layered upon another until the story changes. And as we step into the next chapter, we'll look at the ways we sometimes sabotage that peace, the quiet habits that make us pull away right when love is trying to hold us closer. Because if trust is the home you're building, self-sabotage is the draft that slips through the cracks. Let's find where it comes from and seal it, so the warmth you've worked so hard to create doesn't drift away. Chapter 8. Overcoming Self-Sabotage. You know that strange moment when things are finally peaceful, your relationship is steady, work is flowing, and somehow that's when your brain starts whispering, something's wrong. You scroll for proof. You pick a fight. You convince yourself it can't last. That's self-sabotage, the mind's way of protecting you from a happiness it doesn't fully trust yet. It's not that you want to ruin the good things in your life. It's that somewhere deep down, your nervous system still believes safety isn't real, that calm means the fall is coming. So before you can be disappointed, you preempt it. You pull back, shut down, or start searching for signs that confirm what you already fear. When safety feels like danger. For people who grew up walking on eggshells, peace can actually feel suspicious. Silence feels like a warning, not rest. Stability feels temporary, like the quiet before the storm. So when life finally gets good, your body remembers the cost of letting your guard down. And it panics. That panic doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it shows up as overthinking, picking apart every text message, or convincing yourself your partner is losing interest. Other times, it's more subtle. Procrastinating right before an opportunity, rejecting praise, or pulling away from someone who treats you better than you're used to. It's not that you don't want love or success. It's that part of you is still bracing for loss. A familiar kind of protection. Think of self-sabotage as an outdated defense system. It was built years ago, probably when you had to rely on it to stay emotionally safe. When being too happy, too relaxed, or too visible came with consequences. Back then, it made sense. But now it's like software that hasn't been updated. It keeps running the same code, even though the danger is long gone. You might even feel loyal to the old version of you, the one who learned to survive by staying small, careful, and prepared. So you keep repeating the same behaviors, not out of weakness, but out of habit. Your mind isn't your enemy. It's just following instructions that were written in fear. Rewriting the code. To stop sabotaging yourself, you don't need to fight your impulses. You need to decode them. The next time you notice yourself pulling away, ask, what am I trying to prevent right now? What am I afraid will happen if I just let this be good? Once you name the fear, you can do something radical. Stay. Stay in the moment. Stay with the person. Stay with the calm. Every time you do, your brain learns something new, that safety can last, that love doesn't always vanish, that success doesn't have to explode. This is how neuroplasticity works, not through massive breakthroughs, but through small repetitions of safety that teach the brain a new pattern. The practice of staying. Here's a simple way to start retraining that instinct. When you feel the urge to run, criticize, or withdraw, take 10 seconds before acting. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice your breath. Ask yourself, what would happen if I didn't intervene right now? If you're about to text something defensive, type it, then wait. If you're about to cancel plans, promise yourself to show up for just 15 minutes. If you want to apologize for taking up space, don't. Just breathe. These tiny acts of resistance create micro moments of rewiring. They show your nervous system that nothing terrible happens when you stay. And slowly, the chaos that once felt like home begins to lose its grip. Healing the loyalty to pain. Sometimes we sabotage not because we fear failure, but because peace feels like betrayal. It can feel wrong to be happy when the people who raised you never were. It can feel disloyal to your past self, the one who struggled, suffered, survived, to finally let things be easy. But healing isn't abandonment, it's continuation. It's you taking everything your younger self fought for and turning it into safety. You don't owe your pain, your loyalty, you owe it closure. So the next time you find yourself pushing away love or doubting your calm, remember, this isn't proof that you're broken. It's proof that your system is learning what peace feels like. And like anything new, it takes repetition. You're not ruining good things, you're recalibrating to receive them. Let this be the season where you stop rehearsing disaster and start practicing trust, not just in others, but in the quiet steadiness of your own heart. The book, Anxious Attachment Recovery, Made Simple, goes even deeper into this cycle, how those old defense mechanisms turn into self-sabotage, and how you can finally break free from the constant push and pull between craving love and fearing it. If you've ever felt like you're the one who keeps ruining the good things without meaning to, this chapter will help you understand why and how to stop repeating the same painful pattern. Because peace isn't the absence of problems, it's the absence of panic in the presence of love. Conclusion: the long quiet after the storm. There's something sacred about reaching the end of a journey that once terrified you. You began this path wanting answers, to fix, to understand, to stop feeling too much. And now, you've discovered something greater than understanding. You've found awareness, that quiet knowing that doesn't rush to fix or fight. It simply sees. Awareness is the doorway. Because when you start seeing your reactions not as failures but as signals, you stop fighting yourself. You stop calling it crazy when it's really your nervous system saying, I just want to feel safe. Healing anxious attachment isn't about erasing your sensitivity. It's about learning to hold it with grace. It's about realizing that the same depth that once made love feel like drowning can make connection feel like breathing again. Somewhere along this journey, you stopped waiting for someone else to come rescue you. You became your own safe place. You learned how to stay when it would have been easier to run, how to pause when your body screamed to panic, How to speak when silence used to be your armor. That's not small, that's revolution, and it's quiet revolutions like these that truly change a life. Because real healing is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It's subtle, like the first morning you wake up and realize your thoughts aren't racing, or the moment you reach for your phone, about to send that anxious text, and you stop, you breathe, you remember, and you smile. Because for the first time, you trust yourself more than the fear. We live in a culture that confuses chaos for passion. It teaches us that love must be intense, uncertain, consuming, that peace means boredom. But peace is not the absence of passion. It's the presence of safety. It's the space where love can actually grow. The truth is, you can love someone deeply and still be free. You can care without clinging, give without losing, stay open without dissolving. That's what secure love really is, not needing someone to fill your emptiness, but choosing to walk beside them from fullness. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop grasping for love, you become magnetic to it. Not because you've mastered a new technique, but because your energy finally says, I belong to myself. That's what draws people in, not perfection, but peace. You see, every anxious attachment wound begins with a loss of trust. In others, yes, but more deeply in your own worth. When that trust returns, something profound happens. You stop trying to earn love and start allowing it. You stop auditioning for connection and start embodying it. And you realize every relationship you've ever had was preparing you for the one you're having now, with yourself. So many of us spent years thinking healing would make us immune to pain. But real healing doesn't make you untouchable. It makes you transparent. It allows love and loss and joy to pass through you, without breaking you apart. You begin to see pain not as punishment, but as purification. Heartbreak, rejection, disappointment, all of it becomes the refining fire that burns away what was never real, until what's left is pure, your truth, your tenderness, your essence. If there's one thing I've learned, both from research and from life, it's that the nervous system isn't asking for perfection. It's asking for consistency, for small daily acts of safety, the gentle routines, the quiet mornings, the deep breaths. These are not background noise. They are the language of self-trust. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you rewire your brain. Every time you speak kindly to the part of you that panics, you rewrite your history. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you remind your body, the danger is over. I'm safe now. And from that place of inner safety, relationships stop being survival missions. They become shared journeys. You stop asking, do they love me enough? And start wondering, do I feel like myself here? You stop fearing space and start respecting it. Because space no longer means loss. It means trust. As you move forward from here, remember, growth is cyclical. There will be days when you'll feel light and strong, and others when the old ache returns. That's okay. You're not starting over. You're deepening. Healing is like the ocean, sometimes still, sometimes stormy, always alive. Don't measure your progress by how calm the water is. Measure it by how gracefully you float when the waves come. And if you ever forget how far you've come, look at the way you speak to yourself now. The softness, the patience, the respect. That's the real evidence of healing. You've learned to breathe again, not just to survive, but to live. You've learned that loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. You've learned that closure isn't something they give you, it's something you decide to create. You've learned that peace isn't a reward, it's a practice. And maybe most importantly, you've learned that being open, even after being hurt, is not naive. It's brave, because staying open in a world that taught you to guard your heart is the ultimate act of courage. So here's my invitation. Keep expanding. Keep choosing love, not because it's safe, but because you are. Keep walking through life with the kind of quiet strength that makes people feel calmer just by being near you. Because your story isn't just about recovery, it's about rebirth. If this summary spoke to you, stay close. Like, subscribe, share your reflections below, not just to support this channel, but to remind someone else that healing is possible. Because someone out there is still trapped in the same fear you've already walked through. Be the proof that peace is real. You've turned fear into wisdom, need into knowing, attachment into connection. And from here on, your life isn't about chasing love. It's about living it. Take one more deep breath. You've made it home to yourself. If you've made it this far, thank you, not just for listening, but for showing up for yourself. If this book resonated with you, know that it's part of a larger healing series designed to support your full journey toward secure love. Book 1. Anxious Attachment Recovery. Made Simple. The foundation where your healing begins. Book 2. Unlock Secure Attachment. The next chapter, guiding you into confident, balanced relationships. Book 3. Anxious Attachment. Workbook. The hands-on tools, reflections, and daily practices to help you embody what you've learned. You can also get all 3 together in one complete edition. The links are in the description below. Your support helps this channel grow and allows me to keep creating free healing content for people like you. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for doing this work. Because by healing yourself, you're quietly healing the world around you too. Take care of your heart, and I'll see you in the next video.